Most people think power comes from one thing: strength, intelligence, confidence. But real power has always been something more complex, because history doesn't reward just the strongest or just the smartest. It rewards those who can be both, ruthless when necessary and strategic when it matters. Centuries ago, Machiavelli described this perfectly: to survive and dominate in the world of power, you must become both the lion and the fox. The lion to frighten wolves, the fox to recognize traps. But here's the part most people miss. Becoming both is not natural, because human nature pulls you in one direction. Either you rely on force or you rely on cleverness, and in doing so, you become predictable. Today, we're going deeper into the dark psychology of what it really means to become both the fox and the lion, through Machiavelli's strategic realism and Nietzsche's brutal understanding of human nature and the will to power. Because once you understand both, you stop playing the game like everyone else and start operating above it. Let's begin with the lion. The lion represents raw power, presence, dominance, fearlessness. When a lion enters the scene, it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't seek approval. It simply exists with undeniable force, and people respond to that instinctively, because human beings are wired to respect strength, not always consciously, but deeply. You see it everywhere. The person who speaks with certainty, the one who doesn't hesitate, the one who isn't afraid of conflict, they command attention. But here's the problem: the lion has a weakness. It cannot see traps. It relies on force, and force alone can be manipulated. A lion can be led into a cage if it doesn't recognize the setup. And this is where most strong people fail. They rely too much on dominance. They push harder. They react faster. They assume power alone is enough. But in a world of hidden motives, that's dangerous. Now let's look at the fox. The fox is different. It doesn't overpower. It outmaneuvers. It observes. It studies patterns. It reads intentions. It avoids unnecessary conflict. The fox understands something critical. Not every battle should be fought. Sometimes the smartest move is to step back, wait, and strike indirectly. This is pure strategy, Machiavellian thinking at its core, because control doesn't always come from force. It comes from positioning, from timing, from knowing when to act and when not to. But the fox also has a weakness. It lacks intimidation. It may be clever, but without presence, it can be ignored. Or worse, it can be challenged, because humans don't just respect intelligence, they respect what they fear, and a fox alone is not feared. This is where the real lesson begins, because most people become one and neglect the other. They become the lion, aggressive, dominant, reactive, or they become the fox, quiet, observant, strategic, but passive. And in both cases, they limit themselves. Machiavelli's genius was understanding this. You need both, not sometimes, always. Now Nietzsche takes this even further, because he wouldn't just ask what you are, he would ask, what drives you? Are you acting from strength or from insecurity disguised as strength? Because many people think they are lions, but they're not. They're reacting emotionally, defending their ego, proving themselves. That's not power. That's instability. True strength in Nietzsche's eyes comes from self-mastery, the ability to control your impulses, your reactions, your need to prove anything at all. Because when you no longer need validation, your actions become precise, intentional, and that's when the lion becomes real. So how do you become both? Let's break it down. First, develop the mind of the fox. This means learning to observe before acting. Most people react immediately. They speak too quickly. They decide too quickly. They reveal too much. But a fox doesn't rush. It watches. It asks, what is really happening here? What are people not saying? Where is the leverage? You begin to see patterns. behavior becomes predictable. And once you see patterns, you gain an advantage most people don't even realize exists. You stop being surprised. You start anticipating. Second, control your emotions completely. This is where most people fail, because emotions expose you. Anger reveals your triggers. Desperation reveals your dependence. Excitement reveals your expectations. And once those are visible, they can be used against you. The fox understands this. It doesn't show everything it feels, but neither does the lion, because the most dangerous presence in any room is the one that remains composed under pressure. Calm is power, not because it looks good, but because it keeps you in control. Third, develop the presence of the lion. This is where strategy becomes visible, because intelligence alone is not enough. You need to project strength not through noise, but through certainty. Speak less, but with clarity. Move with intention. Don't over-explain yourself. People don't analyze this consciously. They feel it, and when they feel it, they adjust. They become more careful, more respectful, more aware of your presence. Fourth, know when to switch. This is the real skill. Not just being the fox or the lion, but knowing when to become each. When you sense manipulation, you become the fox. You observe, you gather information, you don't reveal your position. But when a line is crossed, you become the lion. Direct, firm, unshakable, no hesitation. Because hesitation at the wrong moment destroys authority, and over-aggression at the wrong moment destroys strategy. So you move between both seamlessly. Fifth, detach from the need to be understood. This is subtle, but powerful. Most people want others to get them, to see their intentions, to understand their logic. But this creates exposure. A fox doesn't need to be understood. A lion doesn't need to explain. They act and let others interpret. Because once you stop trying to control how people see you, you gain more control over how you move. Finally, understand this truth. The world is not purely logical. It's not purely fair. It's shaped by perception, emotion, and power. And those who succeed at the highest level understand this without illusion. They don't rely on one trait. They don't stay in one mode. They adapt. They observe like the fox and act like the lion. Here's the reality most people avoid. If you are only kind, you will be taken advantage of. If you are only strong, you will be outmaneuvered. But if you become both, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. Because people don't know how to approach you. They don't know what you'll tolerate. They don't know how far you'll go. And that uncertainty creates respect. In the end, this isn't about becoming manipulative or ruthless for the sake of it. It's about becoming aware of yourself, of others, of the game being played around you. Because once you see it clearly, you have a choice: to remain predictable or to evolve into something far more controlled, far more strategic, far more powerful. If you want to understand power, psychology, and human nature on a deeper level, subscribe, because the moment you understand the game is the moment you stop being played